In the annals of Chinese history, where emperors ruled supreme, one woman defied all conventions to seize the dragon throne. Zetian, China's first and only female emperor. She rose from concubine to absolute ruler, navigating a world dominated by men with unmatched intelligence, ambition, and ruthlessness. Born in 624 CE during the Tang dynasty, Zetian was no ordinary woman. Raised in a family that valued education, she was well-versed in literature, politics, and strategy. At the age of 14, she entered the palace as a concubine of Emperor Taizong, but her story would not end in the shadows of the imperial harem. After Emperor Taizong's death in 649 CE, Zetian was expected to retire to a Buddhist convent, as was the custom for imperial concubines. But fate, and her own ambition, had other plans. She had caught the eye of Taizong's son, Emperor Gaozong, long before his father's passing. When he ascended the throne, their connection only deepened. In a move that defied centuries of tradition, Zetian was recalled to the palace, an unprecedented act that scandalized the court. But Gaozong, deeply infatuated, elevated her to the rank of consort once more. Zetian's return set off a storm of rivalries. She was not merely content with being a consort, she sought total control. But the imperial harem was a battlefield, and standing in her way were two formidable rivals. Empress Wang and consort Xiao, women of high rank who controlled the emperor's favor. Empress Wang, though elegant and intelligent, had one fatal flaw: she had failed to produce an heir. This left the door open for other women to rise in the emperor's affection, but she was not willing to let Zetian take her place so easily. By her side was consort Xiao, another favorite of the emperor, known for her charm and political cunning. Together, they sought to keep Zetian in the shadows, ensuring she remained nothing more than a passing concubine. Yet Zetian was no ordinary woman. She was patient, she was calculating. Where Wang and Xiao relied on their titles, Zetian relied on her mind. Slowly, she drew the emperor's attention, offering him counsel, not just beauty. She soothed his anxieties, advised him on political matters, and proved herself indispensable. Gaozong, weak in will but eager for guidance, fell deeper under her influence. But influence alone was not enough. Zetian knew that as long as Wang and Xiao stood in her way, her position was never secure. She needed them gone. And then, fate handed her the perfect opportunity. Zetian's infant daughter, her only child with Gaozong, was dead, and when the accusations fell, they did not fall on her. Instead, she turned suspicion onto Empress Wang. With masterful precision, she convinced the emperor that Wang had ordered the child's murder out of jealousy. The imperial court was thrown into chaos. Consort Xiao, desperate to save herself, sided with Wang, sealing both their fates. Empress Wang and consort Xiao were stripped of their titles, imprisoned, and later executed in the most brutal fashion. By 655 CE, Zetian had achieved the impossible. She was crowned Empress, the highest-ranking woman in the empire. But her ambitions did not stop there. She was no mere consort. She was the power behind the throne, and soon all of China would bow to her rule. As Emperor Gaozong's health deteriorated in the late 660s, the imperial court fell into chaos. Ministers and nobles schemed for influence, but one figure loomed above them all: Zetian. While Gaozong still held the title of emperor, it was Zetian who governed in his name, issuing decrees, appointing loyal officials, and shaping policy with an iron grip. She silenced opposition with ruthless efficiency. Officials who questioned her authority were demoted, exiled, or executed. Noble families that once controlled the empire's bureaucracy found themselves replaced by scholars and administrators loyal to her alone. Her influence was absolute, but mere influence was not enough. Zetian wanted the throne itself. In 683 CE, Emperor Gaozong died, and their son, Emperor Zhongzong, ascended the throne. But when he attempted to rule independently, he was swiftly deposed and replaced by his younger brother, Emperor Ruizong, who was nothing more than a puppet under Zetian's control. By the late 600s and 80s, it was clear that Zetian was no longer content with ruling from behind the scenes. The empire had never seen a female ruler before, but she was determined to change that. Slowly, she built a power base strong enough to defy centuries of tradition. She surrounded herself with loyal advisors, strengthened the secret police, and even expanded Buddhism's influence, using religious support to justify her rule. Then, in 690 CE, she took the final, unprecedented step. She officially deposed Emperor Ruizong and declared herself Emperor of China. She abolished the Tang dynasty and established her own, the Zhou dynasty, becoming the sole ruler of the empire. It was a move that defied the norms of Chinese history, shocking the court and reshaping the empire forever. No woman had ever ruled China in her own name, but Zetian was not just any woman. She was a force of nature, and her reign had only just begun. As emperor, Zetian defied expectations, not only by claiming the throne, but by proving herself a ruler of unparalleled vision and capability. She understood that power was not simply taken, it had to be maintained, legitimized, and strengthened. Her first major reform was expanding the civil service examination system. Unlike previous dynasties, where aristocratic birth determined government positions, Zetian made sure that officials were chosen based on merit. This opened doors for talented individuals from lower social classes, creating a more effective and loyal bureaucracy. Her governance extended beyond palace walls. She strengthened China's military, ensuring that the empire's borders remained secure. Under her leadership, China repelled threats from the Tibetan Empire, solidified control over the Korean peninsula, and expanded influence along the Silk Road, bringing wealth and cultural exchange to the empire. Beyond politics and war, Zetian turned to ideology. She understood the power of religion as a unifying force and actively promoted Buddhism, elevating it above Confucianism and Taoism. She commissioned grand temples, patronized Buddhist scholars, and even claimed herself as the reincarnation of Maitreya, the Buddha of the future, reinforcing her divine right to rule. Yet, for all her achievements, Zetian's reign was not without controversy. She ruled with an iron grip, ensuring that opposition was swiftly and mercilessly silenced. A vast network of secret police rooted out conspiracies, and her political enemies, whether noble families, former allies, or even members of her own family, met grim fates. Her methods were ruthless. Zetian knew that to rule in a man's world, she could show no weakness. Power was not given, it was taken, and to secure it, she would eliminate any threat, no matter how close. Eliminating Empress Wang and consort Xiao was just her first act of disposing of her threats. She went for anyone who dared question her rule. And when she became the Empress, she ensured that she eradicated anyone who stood in her way. One such person was Prince Li Zhong, Gaozong's son from another consort, who was the first to fall. She accused him of plotting rebellion, and soon after, he was stripped of his titles and banished, never to be heard from again. Next was her own son, Crown Prince Li Hong. Though he had been poised to inherit the throne, he opposed his mother's ruthless ways. But defying Zetian was a fatal mistake. In 675 CE, he mysteriously fell ill and died. Many suspected poison. One by one, her own children became victims of her hunger for power. Li Xian, her second son, showed signs of defiance, and she accused him of treason. He was forced into exile, only to later be strangled to death. Some say on her direct orders. Yet it was not just her own family who suffered. The noble families of the Tang court, those who once held unshakable influence, became targets of her wrath. The powerful Jiang Sun and Lu families, whose members had served as ministers for generations, resisted her growing control. But Zetian had no tolerance for disobedience. She accused them of treason, had their estates confiscated, and ordered their entire families executed or exiled. Even those who had once been her allies were not safe. Chancellor Shang Guanyi, a respected statesman, tried to oppose her rise. His defiance cost him his life. He was executed, and his entire family purged. By the time Zetian declared herself emperor in 690 CE, the old aristocracy had been shattered. Her rivals, both royal and noble, were either dead, exiled, or too afraid to challenge her. Her methods were ruthless, but her results were undeniable. Under her rule, China experienced political stability, economic growth, and cultural advancements. She transformed the imperial court, redefining what was possible for a ruler, especially a woman. Zetian was not just a powerful leader. She was a force that reshaped history. But even the greatest rulers must one day face the passage of time. In her later years, time itself became Zetian's greatest adversary. As age and illness crept upon her, so too did the growing resentment within the imperial court. By the early 700s, whispers of rebellion filled the palace halls. The once unshakable ruler found herself increasingly isolated, her iron grip loosening. Despite her political brilliance, Zetian had made powerful enemies. Court officials, former allies, and discontented nobles conspired against her, eager to restore the Tang dynasty. In 705 CE, after ruling for over 50 years, first as consort, then as regent, and finally as emperor, she was forced to abdicate. With the Tang dynasty restored, Zetian retreated from public life, spending her final days in quiet seclusion within the confines of the palace. The woman who had once commanded armies, rewritten laws, and defied tradition now found herself a mere spectator of the empire she had built. Later that same year, she passed away at the age of 81. Even in death, her legacy remained as controversial as her reign. Her tomb, the Grand Qianling Mausoleum, was built alongside her husband, Emperor Gaozong. Yet one detail set it apart: her stele, the traditional stone monument, inscribed with the deeds of emperors, was left completely blank. Was it an act of erasure by her enemies? Or a final statement, leaving history itself to judge her? Some remember her as a ruthless tyrant. Others hailed her as a visionary, a ruler who broke the chains of gender and reshaped China's future. What do you think of the Empress? Share your thoughts in the comments, and thank you for watching. See you in our next video.